Resume the session, starting the segment on the annual report on evaluation. I am very proud and glad to have at the table here on my left-hand side Mr. Indran Naidu, the Director of the Independent Evaluation Office. Nice to see you, Indran. Mr. Arild Hauge, Deputy Director, Independent Evaluation Office, who is on the very left. On my right-hand side, the Assistant Administrator and Director of the Bureau for Policy and Program Support, Mr. Mardier. Nice to see you, Abdoulaye. And Madam Margaret Thomas, the Chief ad interim of the Development Impact Group, Bureau for Policy and Program Support. Hi, Margaret. I would start by giving the floor to Mr. Indran Naidu, the Director of the Independent Office, to introduce the annual report on evaluation and the report on the status of implementation of the Independent Evaluation Office recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Naidu. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, distinguished members of the board and colleagues, I'm very pleased to present to you the 2017 Annual Report on Evaluation. I do this with the full support of the Office of the Independent Evaluation Office, and am joined on the podium by my Deputy Director, Mr. Arild Hauge, as well as behind me the Chief of Sections, Alan Fox, Heather Bryant, Fumeka Auchi, and Senior Evaluator, Richard Jones. I also want to acknowledge the collaboration with the Associate Administrator, Mr. Abdullah Ma, as well as the Interim Chief, Margaret Thomas. This report summarizes the status of key strategic initiatives undertaken by the Independent Evaluation Office, the IEO, and the progress achieved in our work. It also contains a brief analysis of the actions that UNDP senior management has taken in light of the recommendations from IEO. The document is available online and in hard copies, so I will not go into too much detail. Nevertheless, I would like to highlight a few key aspects of it. As you all know, 2017 was the transition year for UNDP, with the appointment of a new administrator, Mr. Achim Steiner, and the conclusion of the strategic plan for the period 2014 to 2017. IEO concluded its own working plan for the same period while consolidating some significant changes. Those included the new evaluation architecture and an improved approach to implementing evaluation to meet an expanded evaluation agenda. Entrenching of the 2016 evaluation policy. 2017 was the first full year of implementation of the new evaluation policy. In compliance with this policy, IEO has regularly reported to the UNDP Audit and Evaluation Advisory Committee, mandated to oversee our work. In turn, IEO has received valuable advisory services from the Evaluation Advisory Panel. Each year in May, this international group of experts convenes in New York to discuss with IEO team various aspects of the evaluation practice. As part of the professionalization of the evaluation function, the IEO has drafted a charter specifying the mandate, authority, and accountability of the office and how evaluations are carried out. This charter will be finalized and available in the coming weeks. Independent evaluations. Conducting independent evaluations remains the essential purpose of the IEO. Last year, to support the preparation of UNDP's new strategic plan, the office evaluated the organization's performance for the period 2014 to 2017 across its main areas of work at the global and regional level. This was one of the most comprehensive evaluations ever conducted by the IEO. Its conclusions and recommendations were presented to the board last September. Today, I would like to emphasize that UNDP is still well positioned to continue playing a leading role in assisting countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. However, the organization faces organizational challenges, including limitations in harnessing knowledge, solutions, and expertise to improve its results and institutional effectiveness. The evaluation recommended that UNDP encourages a more risk and results-based budgeting and management approach, linking more effectively results to resources. We are very pleased by the administrator's constructive response to the evaluation and to see that its recommendations were taken into consideration in the formulation of the 2018 to 2021 strategic plan. At the country level, 2017 was the last year when only a portion of the country programs nearing their conclusion were assessed by the IEO. We conducted 8 independent country program evaluations, or ICPEs: Bhutan, Chile, Republic of the Congo, Kuwait, Namibia, Philippines, Rwanda, and Togo, and we're very pleased to see them being taken into consideration in the new CPD cycle. In the past, UNDP management and board members have expressed interest in knowing whether the findings and recommendations of the corporate and country program evaluations translated into actions that were actually put in place. Last year, IEO reviewed the follow-up actions planned in response to 62 evaluation reports. The analysis presented in an addendum to the annual report showed uneven implementation and gaps in the management response tracking and reporting system. There is limited information on what changes have been made to UNDP programs and operational systems in response to IEO recommendations and whether they have led to improved performance and results. The Independent Evaluation Office is doing its part to strengthen the management response action tracking system, both through revised guidance and through enhancements to the Evaluation Resource Center. The Office intends also to work with UNDP management to consider other arrangements that can contribute to improve the system. Advancing the evaluation culture. The annual evaluation report also contains activities that the IEO carried out in 2017 to advance the global evaluation culture and practice. They include the National Evaluation Capacities Conference that took place in October in Istanbul, Turkey, and brought together more than 500 evaluators, government officials, parliamentarians, and researchers from 110 countries. The event was co-hosted by the Regional Bureau for Europe and the CIS and the government of Turkey, which was the main financial partner. In addition, further financial support was received from the governments of Finland, Sweden, Norway, and the Netherlands. Over the years, the initiative has provided a unique space to exchange experiences and learn. It has also served as a forum for discussing the methodologies and evaluation capacities needed in the evolving development context. These have become critical issues considering the complexity of the Sustainable Development Goals and the requirement for countries to assess and report on their progress towards the SDGs. IEO is also in the process of developing a diagnostic tool to help countries assess their evaluation systems. This tool can be used by entities at every level of government to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the evaluation systems and how to improve them. The Office has continued its support to the United Nations Evaluation Group, or UNEG, a voluntary network of 48 evaluation units in the UN system. In addition to hosting the UNEG Secretariat, I serve as UNEG Vice Chair and have been working closely with the UN Secretariat to achieve greater cohesiveness of the evaluation function across the UN system. In light of the board-approved evaluation plan for IEO, we have scaled back our financial support to UNEG this year, recognizing the financial implications of our broad mandate. Investment in evaluation. Last year, UNDP spent $21.73 million on evaluation, representing 0.48% of its core and non-core funding. The budget represented an increase of 1.8 million compared to 2016, though a similar percentage share of UNDP's budget. IEO received an allocation of 9 million, representing 0.2% of overall core and non-core funds, which meets financial commitments under the evaluation policy. Headquarters and regional bureaus had a budget of 2.17 million for evaluation, while country offices were assigned 10.56 million. UNDP country offices, regional bureaus, and headquarters completed 315 evaluations in 2017, which represent an increase in the number of decentralized evaluations. This is only 53% of the 562 evaluations planned during the year. Implementing agencies tend to plan optimistically from the start of the year and then revise plans towards the end of the year, as delays and cancellations of evaluation force plan adjustments. While some of these adjustments might be justified, plans need to be more realistic. Moreover, the procedure and justification for such change must be clarified and oversight reinforced to ensure that evaluation commitments are met. The IEO continues to quality assess decentralized evaluations. To an extent, quality has remained stable between 2016 and 2017, with 73% of evaluations rated satisfactory or moderately satisfactory and 27% unsatisfactory, with some variance across regions and evaluation types. To strengthen the evaluation function at decentralized level, IEO cooperated closely with BPPS and regional service centers to hold regional training and feedback workshops. Monitoring and evaluation focal points and senior office managers from 121 country offices participated in these activities. IEO has also completed a revision of the Decentralized Evaluation Guidelines, which we expect to launch this coming September. This has been made possible through generous support from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. Restructuring the office. As IEO moved towards full coverage of countries whose program cycle is close to an end, the office advanced its restructuring and the recruitment of new staff. The office is now formally organized into 4 sections, namely Country Program Evaluations, headed by Fumika Alchi, Corporate Evaluations by Alan Fox, Evaluation Capacity Development by Heather Bryant, and Operations by Amina Rios. The IEO now has 29 staff, 21 of which are international evaluation professionals, all whilst ensuring full gender parity and regional diversity. Moving forward, at the end of 2017, this board approved IEO's evaluation plan for 2018 to 2021. The plan establishes an envelope of $42.1 million over the 4-year period, so it provides an annual budget of approximately $10.5 million per year. Nevertheless, the plan will be adjusted according to the UNDP program budget each year, complying with the evaluation policy target of 0.2% of the funds. The IEO has quite a large agenda ahead that includes 15 evaluations of country programs this year and 39 in 2019. We have undertaken the evaluation of UNDP interagency pool financing and operational services and the evaluation of UNDP support to least developed countries for poverty reduction. They should be presented to the board in September 2018 and January 2019, respectively. To close, I would like to assure the board that the IEO will do its utmost to continue providing unbiased assessment of UNDP approaches and achievements, as well as additional evaluation guidance, so that the organization enhances its competitive strengths and value added as the development partner. I would also like to thank the UNDP administrator, all UNDP senior management and country directors, the board, and member states for the importance that they place on our work and constant support. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Naidoo, for this impressive report. You are talking about the management. I'm very happy and honored to have on my side the Assistant Administrator, Mr. Mardier. I would pass the floor to you, Mr. Assistant Administrator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellency, Vice President for the Western European and Other States Group, Mr. Dominique Favre, Minister Councillor for Switzerland, distinguished members of the Executive Board. On behalf of UNDP Senior Management, I would like to thank Director Indran Naidoo and his team in the Independent Evaluation Office for the work conducted in 2017 and for putting together this thorough report. Similar to previous annual sessions, UNDP takes the opportunity of the presentation of the annual report on evaluation to provide an update on the measures taken to improve the quality of the decentralized evaluation function. UNDP considers high quality action-oriented, and rigorous evaluations, both independent and decentralized, as essential inputs into management decisions to improve the performance and quality of our results and to be transparent and accountable to our partners. To that end, UNDP has made major investments to becoming a more results-oriented, evidence-based organization. More, however, remains to be done, as noted in the evaluation of the 2014-17 strategic plan, to promote a results culture that encourages critical reflection and continuous organizational learning for improved results and institutional effectiveness. I am pleased to share a series of efforts that UNDP undertook in 2017 to become a stronger learning organization. UNDP ensured that all CPDs met our high-quality assurance standards, including making use of evidence, and provided strengthened guidance on CPD evaluation plans. We supported the Independent Evaluation Office-led revision of the Evaluation Resource Center and guidance and templates related to decentralized evaluations. Third, we organized together with the IEO 6 regional-level workshops aimed at strengthening both results-based management and the decentralized evaluation function to ensure high-quality evidence-based programming at regional and country level. The workshops were very successful and gathered 126 M&E focal points from 121 country offices. Fourth, we manage a knowledge network of evaluation professionals and focal points within UNDP, which currently has 167 active members. And number 5, we deployed a United Nations volunteer to the Arab States region to help support the evaluation-related quality assurance function at the regional level. UNDP management notes with satisfaction that based on self-reported data from the Result-Oriented Annual Report, the ROAR, 80% of the country officers met the prescriptive benchmark for M&E capacities, totaling 167 full-time equivalent staff in 2017. This indicates a steady increase compared with 2016, when 73% met the benchmark and there was a total of 137 full-time equivalent staff. All 5 regions of UNDP achieved the financial benchmark set out in the monitoring policy by spending 1% or more of their program budget on M&E. In addition, 2017 showed a continued high compliance with the management response requirement, with 93% of decentralized evaluations and 91% of independent evaluation having a management response. In follow-up to the figures reported in the annual report on evaluation, UNDP has intensified its efforts to increase the compliance and implementation rates of management response. We are pleased to report that as of May 2018, management response compliance is now at 95% for 62 independent evaluations conducted between 2012 and 2016. Out of the planned actions, 75% have been completed and 16% are ongoing. 44% of the evaluations have completed 100% of all planned actions. For the 1,660 decentralized evaluations completed between 2013 and 2017, 96% now have a management response. Out of the planned actions, 57% have been completed, while 17.5% are ongoing. UNDP is currently developing clear guidance and effective structures and processes to improve monitoring and reporting on evaluations plan and management response implementation. Going forward, we are committed to ensure that management responses contain clear, time-bound management actions. We also appreciate the Independent Evaluation Office's commitment to issue practical and useful recommendations. In terms of funding, the total M&E expenditure in 2017 was $67.79 million, representing 1.51% of UNDP's $4.5 billion program expenditure, core and non-core. The figure indicates an increase compared with the 1.28% spent on M&E last year in 2016. As Indran has said, of the total M&E expenditure outlined above, total spending on evaluation alone was $21.76 million, representing 0.48% of UNDP's total expenditure in 2017. UNDP is striving towards meeting the 1% expenditure threshold as stated in the evaluation policy and expects to make progress over the strategic plan period. For 2017, IEAO's budget allocation reflected 0.2% of programmatic resources in line with the policy. The UNDP Integrated Resource Plan and Integrated Budget estimate for 2018-2021 also notes UNDP's commitment to continue to allocate 0.2% of programmatic resource to IEAO. In concluding, Mr. President, I would like to highlight that UNDP will continue to invest in the quality of decentralized evaluations. During 2018, UNDP will support IEAO in finalizing the revisions of the decentralized evaluation guidance and conduct capacity building efforts to target identified gaps and ensure awareness of the new guidance. We have launched the complete rewrite of our program and project management policy and guidance, as Akim Steiner said at the opening, to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of our programming tools for SDG achievement, and we will roll out a new customized project management certification in 2019 to, among other things, strengthen the M&E capacities. Once again, UNDP welcomes the findings of the 2017 annual report on evaluation and its addendum, and the feedback provided by the member states in all our consultations of the year. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Assistant Administrator, for these very clear management commentaries. We would now open the floor for comments, reactions, questions from member states. On the speaker list, I have for the moment only one country, Switzerland. Please.
Thank you, Chair. You have only one country on the list, but I'm reading the statement for 25 countries. So, Mr. President, I make this statement on behalf of Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, Mexico, Moldova, Montenegro, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, the Republic of Korea, Romania, the Russian Federation, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and my own country, Switzerland. 2017 was the first full year of implementation of the revised evaluation policy. We thank the Independent Evaluation Office for their informative annual report on evaluation and the detailed and comprehensive evaluation of the UNDP 2014 to 2017 strategic plan to which the annual report refers. The report has improved from previous years, but we would welcome further improvements. We would like to focus this statement on 4 elements. First, decentralized evaluations. We acknowledge the increase of decentralized evaluations in 2017. However, we are concerned about the decline in quality between 2016 and 2017. The percentage of evaluations with a satisfactory rating fell from 28% to 20%. 53% were only moderately satisfactory, and 26% fell far short of UNDP standards, as the Evaluation Office noted. We therefore repeat the request reflected in a decision at the first regular session that UNDP and the Evaluation Office redouble efforts to substantially improve the quality of decentralized evaluations. Evaluation feasibility and utility for learning and decision-making should also be emphasized. Measures also need to be taken to address important recurring issues and challenges that the independent country program evaluations revealed. For example, country program interventions need strengthened support for gender equality and improved monitoring and evaluation to ensure programs are built on lessons learned and reliable evidence. We appreciate the efforts made by IEO through both changes in methodological approach and increase in staff to cover 100% of evaluations submitted to the board, and especially all country programs coming to the end of their cycle. Second, management response and learning. We appreciate that the Office has conducted a comprehensive review of the implementation of management's response actions from thematic and country program evaluations. We acknowledge that the vast majority of recommendations have management responses with the regular rate above 90%. However, the actual implementation rate and reporting on implementation are still weak. The review from 62 IEO evaluations finalized between 2012 and 2016 showed that only 55% of 877 key actions were reported as completed, a rate similar to the one in decentralized evaluations. A much higher implementation rate of actions is important, since it should ultimately lead to improve UNDP's performance and results. We note the Evaluation Office's finding that other UN organizations are further advanced when it comes to management response implementation and reporting, and welcome their plan to strengthen the tracking and assessment of these responses. We recommend UNDP to continue its dialogue with others to learn from and apply measures to emulate this success. The report acknowledges that the flexibility of UNDP's guidelines on what should be subject to evaluation creates considerable variability across implementing units on what they evaluate. Moreover, the portfolio of evaluations being undertaken currently lacks full independence. We would like to know what measures UNDP is planning to take in order to ensure full accountability and transparency of implementation. Third, resource allocation. We welcome the increased funding for the Independent Evaluation Office. It meets funding commitments under the evaluation policy, which allocates 0.2% of the regular and other program budget for the office. However, funding for evaluations continues to lag behind the benchmark set in the evaluation policy, namely 1% of the program budget. Despite the minor increase in 2017, only 0.48% was allocated to evaluations. We would like to request that UNDP meets this target to strengthen its evaluation function. Taking into account the EIO's finding of insufficient progress on results-based budgeting, we believe that this investment in UNDP's evaluation function will lead to better results and improved impact of UNDP's work. Regarding the budget for 2018, we noticed a significant increase by 5.7 million, 59% for decentralized evaluations. Does this lead to an improvement towards the 1% target? Given the less than satisfactory rating of 79% of 2017 decentralized evaluations, could some of these funds go towards IIO's efforts to improve evaluation quality? Then finally, the fourth point, system-wide approach and cooperation with other multilateral organizations. We appreciate the efforts made by the Director of the Independent Evaluation Office and Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, to work closely with the United Nations Evaluation Group to discuss the future of system-wide evaluations within the reform of the UN towards strengthening collective accountability and learning. We call on UNDP and the Independent Evaluation Office to continue to support independent system-wide evaluation capacity. The new strategic plan of UNDP pursues a more system-wide approach reflected by the decision at the previous board meeting to conduct a joint evaluation among UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women and UNFPA to evaluate the common chapter of the strategic plans. We encourage UNDP to continue its dialogue with these organizations and to further specify its approach in the multi-year evaluation plan, also in view of the implementation of the UNDS reform. Finally, we would be interested in having more information on plans for joint country portfolio evaluations at country level. The need for increased UN coherence and the modest scale of some UN country portfolios makes for a strong case for joint evaluations in many cases. Supporting UNDP's evaluation function is and will remain a priority in the future for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the distinguished delegate of Switzerland for this statement on behalf of 25 countries. There is no other request for the floor in the room, so I would like to turn now to you, Mr. Assistant Administrator, to start to reply. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Switzerland, on behalf of the group of 25 for the very powerful perspective, which I fully endorse. But let me just add my own perspective to your perspectives, which I would try to categorize into 5 sets of items, if I capture well the essence of your presentations. Let me start by commenting on the overall expenditure that UNDP is putting forward on the critical investment on evaluation. I would like first for us to collectively recognize that even though overall our investment in evaluation is lower than the 1% benchmark, we have been consistently investing in the office and respecting the set allocation of 0.2% of our programmatic resources to IEO. So while we did not reach the 1% in 2017, we are 0.48. The total expenditure on evaluation has increased from 19.8 million in 2018 to 21.7 in 2017. So the trend is going slightly up. We commit to analyze the existing blockage, and we will develop clear guidance on financial and human resources allocation to try to delineate M&E cost and correctly capture evaluation-related expenses and time allocation. Now, regarding the decrease in the quality of evaluations, when you aggregate the three categories, highly evaluated, satisfactory, and moderate satisfactory, you see a slight decrease from 2016 to 2017, from 75% to 74%. But 2 points might not define the trend. If I go back to a longer point on time, 2014, you would see that the number were 52%, moving all the way up to 75, 74. So if I take a longer time series, I would see a very encouraging time series going up. And let me give even a longer perspective. If we look at the strategic plan, the benchmark we are setting for 2021, the end point of the strategic plan, is to move from currently the low 20% of satisfactory to 30% by end of strategic plan, and the moderate satisfactory from now currently 53 to 60. So we are bending the curve. So there's a commitment of UNDP to reverse the trend. Now, what is UNDP doing to create a culture of learning and knowledge management? UNDP has made significant progress in strengthening its analytical capacities, as acknowledged by the 2016 results-based management audit conducted by the Office of Audit and Investigation. To build a strong culture, UNDP is continuing to improve its result architecture, reporting, and performing analysis system to allow all parts of the organization to better use results and evidence for learning. Now, what are we precisely doing as UNDP to improve evaluation? The Policy Bureau, which we are reconfiguring, will conduct compliance implementation analysis and organize quarterly meetings with central bureaus to oversee what they are doing. I do agree and concede that the 505 planned for only 315 implemented is quite low. And we have to improve our oversight capacity. Very often, country officers overcommit, and regional bureaus don't validate the overcommitment. I was 2 months ago a regional bureau director of Africa, and I know that we have to invest a lot in ensuring that when country officers commit, they can realize their commitment. So we, the Bureau of Policy, will have a strong oversight capacity supporting the bureaus to ensure that when they commit, they can really realize that. So hence, guidance will be developed to provide systematic overview and processes. This will ensure that no evaluation planned would be deleted. And that I would like to make that commitment, and we'll report to it when we meet next time. We will also institutionalize an annual mid-year or mid-plan review that has been missing in our artillery of oversight. And last but not least, we will continue to provide and intensify more training and planning and budgeting. We have been doing it with the IEO, and for the coming year, this year of the strategic plan, we would like to intensify it. Mr. Chair, just to conclude that I accept the perspective put forward by the group of 25, and we will, in partnership with the IEO, we will intensify our investment in evaluation, which is for me critical in ensuring that programs are effectively implemented.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assistant Administrator, for these responses. As there were quite some questions also addressed to the office, I would turn to Director Naido, please.
Thank you very much, and also to echo and reinforce the comments made by the Assistant Administrator. Over the past year, we've been working very closely with BPPS and Mr. Abdullah Ma in working out how we can actually work as the team to build the decentralized evaluation. Most of the evaluations in UNDP are actually at the decentralized level. And it's really important to get that right. The improved quality of assessments or reviews at the decentralized level makes it easier for us to conduct the independent evaluations. And the main reason for that is we are moving from 30% to 100% coverage. And there has been progress made in that regard. But it does take time. As the report shows, it's also the first time we had an intervention in that regard. So the point I would just like to focus on is we have also seen when there is a clear leadership direction in management responses that the response rate increases quite significantly. And from the time of the completion of the annual report to the latest figures, the gap has actually closed. And what we would like to see the UNDP management is to maintain that pressure so that there is a decisive response to the evaluation recommendations. It is not possible to measure learning in some non-tangible way. The best way in which we measure is action on the recommendations that we make. And it's now about 4 or 5 years. All management responses are printed verbatim in the evaluations itself right at the beginning. So it's part of the public, it's part of a transparency measure. So anyone can see the commitments and the extent to which it's been actually dealt with. The second point is we do appreciate that the organization has met its commitment to the 0.2% budget, and that has had significant implications. The most significant being we have moved from a 30% coverage rate, a sample of eligible countries that are moving to the board, to 100%. In practical terms, we have moved from 6 to 8 countries to 15 this year to 39 next year. So the very marginal increase in dollar has led to the full coverage. We have not sacrificed quality. All these evaluations are on our website in terms of transparency. All the independent country program evaluations are debriefed in a transparent way in New York through virtual, and we invite in all cases the missions to participate in these meetings. And that's been a very strong process. I think it's actually taken us a long way, and you will find this whole body of assessments that are there that are used quite significantly. The third area was the point which has come up repeatedly of working together and joint evaluations. This board and various other boards have raised the same issue. Joint evaluations, whilst we recognize as evaluators is difficult, it's something we must do. So we have pursued it at different levels. In fact, next week there is going to be a UNDAF workshop held under the aegis of the United Nations Evaluation Group right here in New York. But in addition to that, we are looking at specifically following up jointly within the oversight structure, but with officers of similar mandate. So in the last year, I came to you together with my colleague from the audit office where we presented the institutional effectiveness, which was jointly done between 2 oversight officers to give a financial and results perspective, which the board found useful and which is being followed up by the organization. We harmonized resources. It was the first such comprehensive evaluation jointly between independent oversight officers in the entire UN system that went through of that scale. The second joint evaluation which we presented to this board about 3 or 4 years ago was the joint evaluation between the Independent Evaluation Office of the Global Environmental Facility and the IEO, where we looked at the small grants program. And once again, that was presented at both the UNDP board as well as the GEF Council. So we recognize also coming from UNEG that it's an area we have to move in and sharpen the methodology so that in context of UN reform and the need to get a coherent picture, we need to continue in that regard. The area of the Sustainable Development Goals, which has been raised in my report as well as earlier, clearly indicates that at a practical level, something needs to be done. So next week, together with the UNDP Bureau for Africa, we are holding a workshop in Kigali, Rwanda, bringing together 12 countries to pilot this SDG guideline, and we believe that that will be used across the globe. So apart from the discussion, the evaluative work, we are trying to offer, in collaboration with UNDP, very practical solutions in how to build evaluation capacity. I'll stop at that point, and I think further points, we will come to you again in September with other evaluations. But just to emphasize again that we enjoy full respect of our independence. We have a very good relationship with UNDP management. We work with them at headquarters and across the board, and that has facilitated our work. And in certain areas, as we've already begun, we will continue to work with BPPS in areas where we can help to build up the area of the decentralized evaluation. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Director Naido, for these answers. We have two new member states on the speaker list. I would now like to pass the floor to the distinguished representative of Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for all the clarifications and information. But I still have a question for clarification to the Assistant Administrator regarding the financing, the funding of the evaluation function within UNDP. As you explained, it was last year 0.48% of the total budget of UNDP. My question is, these funds, do they come solely from non-earmarked contributions, non-earmarked funds, or also from earmarked contributions? Because the non-earmarked has dropped to 13% last year, I understood yesterday. So if it is only from non-earmarked contributions, core contributions, is there any strategy of UNDP to advance in a sense that project contributions would also contribute through a certain percentage from their budget to the evaluation function in order to reach more easily the 1% as planned in the policy? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very clear question to the distinguished representative of Belgium. I turn now to the distinguished representative of Sweden, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you also to the directors of the Independent Evaluation Office and to the director of BPPS for your very interesting, I think, and clarifying presentations. My question goes to the evaluation of joint programs, and I would like to know if you plan to review any of the joint programs that UNDP is engaging in, for example, the ones with DPA on conflict prevention, and if there are particular challenges to evaluating joint programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the distinguished representative of Sweden. I turn back to you, Mr. Assistant Administrator.
Yeah. To answer the question of Belgium, it does come from both core and non-core. But I do understand the essence of the questions. We do have to use more project resources dedicated to evaluation. That's the way to improve the rates. And I would like to second that recommendation. I'm not saying recommendation, but that comment. The second question, yeah, that's Indra.
Thank you very much. We do have, the board has approved a work plan 2018-2021. You would note that in the outer years, we have indicative topics. So there's still the space each year for a more concrete proposal. It is totally doable in terms of our mandate to do joint program evaluations. We have done many, and we'd be happy to do so if we get a more formal request, and we will look at it. But there's two pieces that are in play right now. One is the common chapter between the, which we are doing with UNICEF, UN Women, UNCDF, which practically will lead to an evaluation. It's done by the evaluation officers. And coming to the board in September, in a sense, it is joint because you're looking at the UNDP and how it works across other UN agencies. Both the pool financing and the operational services are evaluations done by the IEO of the operational backbone of the UN system, and pointing out to how the UNDP in particular has actually addressed that from an independent perspective. And that will reach you all actually quite shortly. The draft report is already with management for comments. So we have moved in many ways, working across offices, across sectors, but also looking at issues that are beyond UNDP itself and things. So there is a space for that. We obviously would have to cost it out, but I'm sure that is quite doable. We learn a lot from joint evaluations. Whilst I said it's difficult, the difficulty comes in our earlier years, but as we are coming through now, we're getting a lot better in terms of doing so. We don't have much of a choice because it's also a budget efficiency issue. And pooling resources has always proved to be beneficial to both offices. For example, the institutional effectiveness meant we shared cost with the audit office, and eventually it was very doable and I would imagine concrete. So we're open to those initiatives. Also on jointness, in the conduct of all country program evaluations, the country program evaluations are now informed by audit findings, and audit findings are now informed by independent country program evaluations. So we have begun also as best possible to go as joint teams into the countries when we're conducting the ICPs. In fact, even in doing the pool financing, we went in with joint. So that's become a normal standard practice. It has been helped by the policy, and which this board approved 2 years ago. The directors of audit and evaluation, as you know, report to the Audit and Evaluation Advisory Committee, not report, I mean, they engage with it. And that committee has encouraged more joint work between the offices, obviously still recognizing the unique mandate. So we have responded to that imperative from them as well, and I'm sure that will also be reported to by the chair of the Audit and Advisory. It's been extremely useful for us to bring together the different strands of oversight work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Naido, for these additional responses. Please be informed that there is a draft decision that is being negotiated on this agenda item and will be adopted at the end of the week on Friday. Before adjourning the meeting, I would like to remind you that it is planned that we have an informal consultation on draft decision right after this meeting. We are trying to advance it to 5. I don't know if it can be 5. We don't know yet, so maybe if you stay 3-4 minutes in the room, I will just shout in the microphone to tell you at what time we will meet to have this informal. Thank you very much for your presence and for this very fruitful discussion. The meeting is adjourned.